Let's do it and see what happens.
Okay, fine, but I might stop recording halfway through.
All right.
Okay, test, 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 test. Okay. I feel like this antidepressant is really working quite well. I feel like I'm drunk all
Are you
the
being
time.
sarcastic or?
No, I'm being real. Okay, when do you want to start? At 40? 5?
45. I was thinking at the minute mark, sorry. 45.
Okay. Ready?
Ah!
I don't want to do it too loud because then I'll screw people's ears over.
Yeah.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Becca.
We're live.
We are. Good to see you.
You too. You're in a different room. Tell us where you are.
I am. I'm in my parents' bonus room in Louisville because we are going on vacation to Kansas City tomorrow.
That is so exciting. Kansas City is a really cool city.
When you went to the Danny Meisinger, is that in Kansas City or where was that?
No, it's a little bit outside. It's probably like 20 minutes down.
South of Kansas City? I mean, you're basically in Kansas City if you're 20 minutes away. That's not far at all.
Yeah. Hey, do you want me to send you that restaurant that me and Bear went to?
Ooh, yeah. Send it
It
over.
was so fucking good. And honestly, it wasn't that expensive. It could be.
What cuisine is it?
Very Asian fusion, vegan, but he did a lot of healthy meals, like Asian fusion plus burgers and stuff. But they had these spare ribs because this is what Bear told me. He wanted to have ribs on the menu, but he's like, we're gonna be in Kansas City.
Yeah, I would think you would go to a barbecue place for ribs, not a Asian fusion place for ribs.
Exactly. It's not Asian fusion, but I think their menu changes, but I felt a lot of Asian inspiration.
Okay.
Anyway, so he was like, I'm gonna do spare ribs, and so he did oh my god, it was the best Thai inspired spare rib. It was so fucking good. It was
Ooh.
the best rib I've ever had in my life. It had these little crunchy bits on it and cilantro.
Oh.
It was dreams are made of those ribs.
That sounds like a spiced up appetizer kind of ribs with some extra stuff sprinkled on it
Yes, and they weren't super sloppy. They were so fucking good. I was trying to scoop up all the extra crumbles off the plate without looking like a total fatso. I was like, oh.
You're pulling up the thing it's in and licking it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. So we're going with my parents are going as well. So the four of us are going, and the main reason is we try to hit all the baseball stadiums, and we haven't been to a new one in a while. And Kansas City is it's 8 hours drive from us here, so it's not that bad. So we'll be going for Thursday through Sunday.
Get this. I literally did not know the name. Yes, I agree. I was listening. That's cool. Baseball. I didn't know the name, but I wanted to tell you the name of the restaurant so people can look it up too. And I literally typed in best restaurants in Kansas City, and it's 1, 2, 3, 6th down on the Google search. 6th down. Okay, it's called Corvino Supper Club and Tasting Room.
How do you spell that?
Corvino. And they have live music, and you're gonna love it.
All right. Saved. Yeah, so that's gonna be our weekend. Yeah, it's right downtown, it looks like.
Yeah, and you could go for a early dinner or whatever, and it's not super fancy. I felt like I went in jeans and I felt comfortable. But
nice.
you can tell that they're a bunch
not
of
actually too far from our Airbnb.
Oh, nice.
Maybe that'll be a Thursday evening when we get there.
Yeah.
Since it's not that far away.
Yeah, and they have live music and stuff.
Cool. Yeah, so other than that, nothing else really happening today. Yeah, I had a show this weekend, so we'll talk about that later in the episode because that'll kind of be part of what we talk about. But yeah, nothing really
Yo,
else going on. I've got my spoon rest that I finally committed to a date when I'm going to restock those next week. So this is going to be
good.
out well after that. But yeah, we'll put those live Thursday, June 24th. So we'll see how those sell. I'm a little bit worried. Anytime I put a restock up, I'm like worried that nothing's going to sell, which is probably not uncommon for a lot of other makers. It's like nobody's going to buy anything, but we'll see.
Have you ever had one where nobody bought anything?
No, not nobody, but I mean, one of them was like you put bowls up and you put like 30 bowls up and like 5 sell. So that's a little bit disheartening. But hey,
Yeah,
that's
but
all right.
you wouldn't have got that sale if you didn't put those bowls up.
But also, is it worth all the effort that I did for all of the bowls that I put up to get
Did
5
you
sales?
sell
I
any
mean,
of the bowls afterwards?
yes, I did.
Then
There's
yes.
there's a positive way to look at it, yes.
Yeah, stop
But
being
can
so
I say that
negative.
in the moment I didn't feel a little bit disheartening within that 1 to 2 days? A little bit. But it's like, moving on. And there's still a number of them live on there, so people can buy them if they want.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
all right.
I
What about you? What's going on? You had a big thing happen this past weekend.
did I? Oh, yes.
What did
I
you do this
moved.
weekend?
I'm like, I did? Um, yeah, I moved in my own apartment building to another apartment. So I moved from the third floor and I was on the back of the building and I was facing like a condo area. Like you could literally like see into the condo across the way, probably like 15 feet away. And it was like on the north side of the building. So it was super dark. And I moved to a 2-bedroom apartment that looks into the courtyard, which you can't see right now, which actually is kind of cool because nobody can see me if I can't see them. And
Oh, a little sneaky.
yeah, shanky. And it's south east facing, and so there's a lot of sun, especially in the morning, which is I'm in a like significantly better mood this
Yeah, it
week.
doesn't feel like you're in a fucking dungeon. That's good.
Yeah, and I'm like, I did not. I guess you just never realize how much sun really impacts your life.
Plus, those
Um,
apartments from when I went to your apartment, like they don't come equipped with a bunch of light in those
yeah,
rooms. I'm like, where's the skylight or the ceiling light? Like, okay, there's like one, or some rooms just don't have any, so you have to provide lamps. Like, those are
yeah,
not gonna do enough.
yeah. Cameron, the lady that runs this place, like I was talking to her yesterday, and she comes down and she goes, I literally just walked into your room and was like, what the fuck? It's so dark in here. It's like 7 p.m. And it was like 10 a.m. And I was like, I know. It's so dark. So yeah, I moved into another apartment and I'm really happy about it. It's got an island in the kitchen. It's only one of 4 units in the whole apartment complex that has an island. And
Nice.
which is important to me because I cook a lot. And
Is it big enough to have like a bar stool or something like that added, or is it? Yeah,
yeah, I could put a bar stool. I don't know if I will because I have a table.
right.
So we'll see. And also I hate like it's not one of those islands that has like an overhang. I hate when you're like sitting in an island and it just like drops. You know,
Yeah.
like there's no overhang for your feet to like sit under the table at least a little, you know?
Yeah.
So
Okay,
there's
so
that.
there is something that if you wanted to like work at it on an elevated seat, you could.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal. Um but yeah, I'm really happy about it. And Dusty is borrowing a kiln from one of the guys
Oh,
at the studio. And so all of my pieces were bisqued, and I finally got to start painting some of them. And I took all of my paints to the studio, and I'm really excited about it.
yeah, I saw you were
And
busy today.
yeah, and I really wasn't all that. I mean, I only painted 2 things. It's gonna take a while because I like to think about it. But
But you were
yes,
in the studio working, which I
yes, which
feel
is
like I haven't seen on your stories much doing your new stuff because the kiln, right? I mean, you
yeah.
can't if stuff's not getting fired.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I'm really stoked that like I've been getting off of work at like around 6 o'clock. I've been doing things a lot faster because I'm happier.
Nice.
And also the antidepressant seems to be working. Doesn't help with the anxiety, but with the depression. um,
So do you go from work at Gravesco to your other studio, or do you go
yeah,
home and then you eat something snack, or else you
yeah,
won't leave if you do that?
yeah. I probably wouldn't leave. Yeah, no, because the studio it's kind of like in a triangle. So, my apartment, and then northeast is Gravesco, and directly east is my personal studio. So,
Mm.
and
So it's
they're
like
like even with each other. So I have to just go
equidistant. Yeah.
down. Yeah, I just have to go down one road from Gravesco to get to the studio, and then I go home. So I basically drive home in an L from Gravesco if I go to the studio. So,
Yeah.
but there's like, oh, I ate a Wendy's hamburger, chicken hamburger, and it didn't affect me.
Chicken hamburger?
Chicken.
Like, what is that? A chicken sandwich?
Yeah.
I was like, is that a new thing? They have a chicken sandwich and a hamburger together, so it's called a chicken burger? Or they put
Yeah, chicken.
they put a
It's
chicken patty on the top and a chicken patty on the bottom, and they sandwich it with a hamburger patty.
it's a chick burger.
So wait, is it, or did you just mix up what it is?
No.
I wouldn't put
I
that past it. They'll probably have that sometime.
Anyway, I've been eating no gluten for a while, and mostly because of my fibromyalgia. And since I feel so much better with the antidepressant, I tried a chicken pretzel bacon pub. That's what I had from Wendy's,
Oh,
and so good. And I felt fine the next day, so I'm really excited about that. So
that's good.
yeah, so gluten might be back on the menu, not full time, but occasionally.
Yeah.
So
I
that's my
gotta imagine that's pretty challenging to avoid gluten,
yeah. I mean, that's the
especially
biggest.
if you're not making it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing is like I don't want to be a burden to people that I'm going out to like lunch with or dinner with. Um, I go to my friend's house for dinner every Thursday, and I want them to be able to make whatever they want, and me to bring whatever to help them. And so that's what's kind of important for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. What do we want to start with here? Do we want to start with a question or a review?
A question. Did you choose a review?
Yeah, I'll look at one while you're
Okay.
a question.
I have the question, and then you can choose a review. Um, okay, question. I have been trying to get a little more consistency in my drying. Currently, I have a rack that is taped up with plastic, but occasionally still have some cracking issues that are due to parts drying faster than others. My question is, what is an optimal humidity level for drying and or temperature? That's from Roy Crofton. Roy Crofton.
All right.
It's from Roycroft Ron. Is
Roy Croft Ron.
no Roycroft. Mycroft. Roycroft? Is Roycroft a word?
I don't know. Roycroft?
This is like when when we did Barbara
Barbara
Stoneware.
Stoneware?
That's a solid name. Anyway,
Barb S. Ware.
okay. Um
Humidity levels and temperatures. I would
so
say something constant. I mean, right? You don't want the sun beaming through your windows and stuff and just heating up that part of your drying area during the morning, and then in the afternoon it's like, you know, 10 degrees cooler. I
yeah.
would think that fluctuation is going to cause your stuff to rapidly dry and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know about humidity levels though. Where do
I
you
don't. think it's necessarily humidity levels that you need to be worried about. Like, it depends on where you are in the country, obviously. Um, like, our humidity levels are like 80 right now in the boxes that we have. So you can get like a little tiny humidity reader that just, it's like really small. And I think you can get them on Amazon. They're super cheap. And you can just put them in your boxes and make sure that they're kind of like a consistent. And usually over like 70 is gonna keep it pretty moist during the night, like pretty damp. Um,
What's
but
the ways to adjust that? Is there I guess there's dehumidifiers and there's humidifiers, right? So
yeah. So like when I was in the basement in Washington, I literally had a dehumidifier all through the winter because it was so humid.
yeah. And
But
that's gonna and were you also like leaving the pieces uncovered
yeah,
throughout that time, and you would use the dehumidifier because
yeah,
you work rapidly anyways.
yeah,
I assume at that point you were kind of working quickly and going
yeah.
through a lot of pieces. So
Yeah, I think that also if you're like having cracking around like handle joints, a lot of people will wrap like plastic just around the handle. Some people put like wax around it. Um,
right,
but like as far as temperature goes, it's really not about temperature as much as it is. I mean, yes, temperature has a lot to do with it, but it's a lot to do with how much air is moving through your space. And that's how, you know,
yeah, being
what,
conscious of where the vents are, where the
uh-huh.
air is coming out of them, and how
Because
cold or
yeah,
hot it is. And are you there when the air is running a lot? Are you in the middle of the summer and the AC's blasting and
yeah.
blowing on stuff? Is it? Can you move your stuff to a different tabletop so that it gets out of the way of that, where you don't want it to dry quickly, or you don't want one side of it to dry faster than the other, and stuff like that?
Yeah. And like you want to be looking at, especially, I mean, if you're working, we're just not, I think this is a good question, like for humidity and drying and stuff like that, but I feel like we should talk about the fact that you're getting cracking, probably, I would imagine, in joints, probably a handle joint. And it may not be that. It may be that you're actually putting too much moisture between the joint. Like, you're putting too much, uh, like
Water or
slip
slip or
or
something
slip
like
between
that.
the joint. Like you could put some vinegar in that slip, and that might help. You could maybe lessen the slip. I find that if it's too moist, it does crack a little bit more.
Or if the
Um,
moisture levels aren't the same either. I've had mugs that
yeah,
are too dry and you try to attach a handle. You put the little extra water around the attachment point before you stick the handle on there, but it doesn't give it enough time for the moisture to catch up
yeah,
when my mug has been past the dry of where it should be for a handle, and you try to rehydrate or dunk the mug in water before you put the
yeah,
handle on, and like those tend to crack more for me. But I generally always cover my mugs with fresh handles overnight for sure
overnight. Yeah, I think that's a good
at a
practice
minimum.
if you have the time and the space. And but yeah, I mean, like it may not be just the humidity and the levels. Like I was having issues with my porcelain when I was in Washington, and it was not the way I was drying stuff. It was the clay. 150% it was the clay. We went through so many different tests, and it was always the clay. So, um, keep that into
We talked about that
consideration.
a little bit with Link a few weeks ago. She was, we talked about the properties of like B mix clay versus other
Yeah.
clays that, when you're putting handles on B mix, almost like I can expect that it is going to be more prone to cracking around the handle
Yeah.
joint. And we talked about that because of I think it was the amount of moisture in it, and
Mhm.
it holds moisture a lot, and then when it dries it wicks it all away and it tends to shrink and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, so keep that in mind. But I would say just make sure your box is like completely closed. Like if you're making a damp shelf, make sure it's completely enclosed. Like make it as solid as you can. We use shower curtains with glass beads on the bottom so they hang down and they don't like flail up with the wind.
And do you have like magnets and stuff?
Yeah, I put magnets on mine, or just clamps. But I have a metal shelf, so I do magnets. And then,
And the
but yeah,
thickness of the plastic has a big part of it too. If it's too thin, then it's still drying. You're like, oh, it's covered in plastic, but there's levels of plastic thicknesses. Like you said, shower curtain, like that's really thick. I don't know how thick that is, but
yeah. Oh,
it's
I didn't
probably.
know that the thickness of the plastic mattered.
Oh yeah, I mean, just think of it. How thick is the plastic of a Rubbermaid container for a damp box versus just a thin.
True.
Or have you ever used like Kroger, like grocery bags to just cover pieces or
Mm,
something? If you got desperate, you just put one over it. The thinness of the plastic does matter because it's going to dry quicker. I mean, you
mm.
think plastic is plastic and it's like a barrier, but it also like there is some influence of how thick the plastic is.
Yeah. And also you may consider getting a damp box for just your mugs or whatever you're attaching your pieces to, just for like a day, and have everything incorporate to itself, and then you can take them out and let them dry as fast or as slow as you want. You know, that might be something to consider as well. Ryan has a tutorial on his Instagram for that.
I don't think I ever published that.
Well, fuck.
I didn't because it was too long. I think IGTV was limited to 15 minutes and I didn't
Oh.
want to edit it, so.
And also we did that one where we did it wrong, and I have that too. And I'm still like reaping the non-benefits from it.
And I've recorded that like 2 or 3 times actually.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to a review.
All right, this review. Thanks for that question, Roy.
Yes,
Craftren.
Roy Croft.
Croftren. Lara Croft's brother, you know?
Yeah.
All right. This was from Gray Haired Potter. It's titled Hi Ryan and Becca.
Hi.
I really enjoy listening to Wheel Talk. I've gained a lot of information from you. I started listening at about episode 78, but I have gone back to the beginning and listened to some earlier episodes too. I have enjoyed episodes with guest potters that you've had on your podcast. I think you both do a good job of putting them at ease and creating a friendly atmosphere. Maybe you were already friends with them before the podcast, but you definitely seem like friends by the end of the episode. I think that's kind of what we strive for anyways, right?
Oh, I consider them friends. I
Yeah.
remember when we had Leanne on there. I was like, finally, now I can like send her messages on Instagram, and she
not
like
feel
has
bad about
talked to me, and like I don't feel bad about it. Same with Kurt.
She knows me.
She knows me. And same with Link, honestly. Now I text Link pretty much on a regular basis.
Nice. All right. The rest of it says, I feel like Wheel Talk is a great resource for anyone interested in learning about making and selling pottery. I follow you both on Instagram. Becca, I hope you're enjoying your job. I'm awed by the bat after bat of identical pots that you throw. Ryan, you are working diligently to build your business. I wish you every success. Rachel must be a really patient wife because you are working some major long hours. I've had a kiln for a little more than a year, so I must say that your "What Would You Do If" segment about the top of the kiln collapsing was pretty hair-raising to consider. Anyway, keep up the great podcasting. I'm looking forward to episode number 90. So,
Can I just say on the Rachel is an extremely patient person, but Ryan is also a patient person. They both have their quirks. Like Rachel always reorganizes the house, and Ryan's always in the studio. They have their things. You guys are both patient with each other in separate areas.
how am I when you say I'm patient, are you saying in relation to the long game patience? Is that what you're talking about?
No, in relation to your wife painting the door yellow, or
Oh.
like painting the wall
Like
by the
letting her
bathroom.
bear me down over time and just becoming more okay with it.
I'm gonna like call you one day and you're gonna be like, fuck!
I mean, sometimes I'm like, really? Like, that's what happened? I'm like, all right. But then I'm like, oh, there's worse things. Like, is it really
Yeah.
worth complaining about that? You know?
Yeah. One time Rachel texted me and she goes, I will not be surprising Ryan with anything ever again. It did not go well.
And the thing is, I'm not like, I don't feel like I like scold her for it. I just come to her and I'm like, Rachel, what the fuck?
Yes.
Really?
What the fuck?
She's
So
like, "Oh,
funny.
what do you think?" I'm like, "Well, it's already done now. I mean, it's gonna
Can't do
be
anything.
more work to just go paint over it." And one time she did it when I was coming back home from a trip for work, and she painted the entryway. I think you heard about this, but she painted the entryway like a macaroni yellow orange,
Yeah,
and
that's the one
she
I'm talking
hated
about.
it. Oh, I thought you meant the door. Okay.
Oh wait, no, it was the door. And then she hated the yellow. Okay, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it was a yellow orange. We got back and she was like, "What do you think?" And I'm like, I don't know." And then she was like, "Yeah, I was actually being nauseated like seeing it." She was. So she was like, "Yeah, we have to change this. I don't know. I tried to surprise you. It didn't really work out." But
That's so funny. Oh, Rachel, I love you.
all
So
right.
does he.
I
Oh, it
do.
was your anniversary this week too. Happy
It
anniversary.
was. That was over the weekend. We spent the anniversary at a show. So
Nice.
usually we're not like gift givers. I think you already know that. People out there might already know that, but we don't like exchange gifts because inevitably you forget what the hell you gave each other. I forgot what I got for Christmas last year, or I forget. I feel like we become like numb to getting things because you just tend to forget them unless they have some special meeting. So
Yeah.
we usually do trips or go out to dinner or something like that. So I don't know that we did anything major for this year, but we were at the show all day, and then
You got her a fan.
I bought the fan. Yes, so it was more bearable at the show. I did have a portable fan that she had all to herself. So yeah.
That's probably the best gift you could ever give
And
someone.
then we got home safely and got home a little early so she can kind of chill out, and we got some pizza and yeah.
That sounds like a great anniversary.
Yeah.
Made some money, ate some pizza. What could go wrong?
Yeah. It was great. So, all right. I think we're good to go into the topic for today.
Mm-hmm.
So I came up with this topic a few weeks ago. I was just kind of spitballing a little bit about shows because it's kind of near and dear to me because it's my favorite way to sell. But I kind of titled this like makings of a great show, which could be like characteristics of what makes me feel like it's a positive experience as a seller,
Yeah.
and maybe some other things of, what could go into your decision making of whether you want to do a show again or not, and some
Mm-hmm.
factors that could affect that. So that's kind of the base of what we're hoping to talk about today. And I sketched up a bunch of these things, so I don't know if Becca's going to be just asking all the questions, but we'll have some back and forth because Becca sold a number of shows, even if most of the ones she sold out were the same Leavenworth over and over throughout like was it like 3 years you did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you've had a number of experiences with customers and the
I've
other
done other shows
parts
too, but
and
it was
stuff.
in the beginning of my career. Also, I was gonna say that this title makes me think it's a musical. That's it's like
I
making
did
of a
not write
great.
this title with the intention of it being a musical. Yes, that sounds like something I would come up with, right? The musical title? No.
Yeah, absolutely. Unless it'd have to be a country musical.
A country musical.
Yeah.
I was listening to Dixie Chicks Radio today. The Chicks Radio on Amazon Music, and it made me think of you.
Oh,
Every time one of those songs came up, or like Shania Twain, I was like, "Yep." I was thinking about sharing it, and I didn't, but
oh, that's so funny because I was driving home and I was listening to Shania Twain, and I thought of you. That might just be the cutest thing that's ever happened to us. Okay. Now we can continue. You're welcome for that, by the way, to everybody out there. You're welcome. We have the
yes.
best bromance. Um, I'm considering myself a bro in this situation. Um, okay, so let's talk about. I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. Like I'm.
I have just a mishmash of ideas, but
Yeah,
in my here.
yeah. So like, essentially, what do you think makes a great show? Like at the base of it, like at the solid, like, at the core.
So a big a bigger factor that I'm becoming more aware of and more front of mind that makes me feel like it was a good one was like how much effort went into actually doing it. Did I enjoy myself?
Mm-hmm.
And if I look back at that day, did I feel like it was beneficial for me to do it regardless of the sales?
Yeah. Oh,
At
that's
a
good.
at a whole, was the interactions I had with customers, was that positive? Did I feel like I represented my business well and had a good, you know, uh decorum with like the organizers and the fellow artists around me and stuff like that? I think that's becoming more top of mind when I look back on the day.
I'm
Like
so proud of you. Look at you
rather
growing.
rather than just like were the sales good,
Yeah.
because a lot of the, whether I'll come back or not has to do with those things of, was setup easy? Was it what I expected? Like, did curveballs get thrown my way and I could like adjust to them, or was I, you know, like feeling like I was struggling, or like something came up and threw me off and just killed my day? Or
Yeah.
so I think those are becoming more apparent and more appreciated the more I sell.
Yeah, because I mean, like your pieces are always going to be constant. Like you might have new things here and there, but your like setup, your general setup is pretty much constant through the
Right.
whole thing. So that's like that's your baseline essentially. Well, that's always going to stay the same. But the show is always going to change, and like the people that you interact with and all those things are, yeah.
It's accumulation of interactions that come together to say, when I look back on it, is the overall
Mm-hmm.
number of those positive.
Yeah. Yeah, because really, I mean, when you go into a show and you hit those curveballs, that you're not expecting, that can set you off into a bad mood that then determines the rest of the show almost,
Yeah.
right? Like,
It could be weather. It could be I forgot my tent weights. It could be
mm-hmm,
um my neighbor's kind of an asshole, or
right.
you know any number of things, or I got up late, or something like that that throws you off. That you can, well,
Right.
if you set up your booth a number of times and you know what's essential to get up if you're running late. For instance, if you really can't put 100% of your booth out in time for this show to start, you can set up two tables and be fine with it, because those are your bread and butter things, the things that are going to be more likely to sell. And this other table might be lower priority, that's like a nice to have. You don't really
Yeah.
need all of that there. And it's also going to save you time and effort that will reduce the stress if you have to adjust on the fly.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Did those kind of go into factoring when you look back at shows, or if it's a show that you picked out versus, like Leavenworth or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like for me, it's never. I mean, it's been a lot about money, but a lot less about money from the beginning. It's mostly been about experiences. I find that I think that you would probably agree with this, is that I generally view life via experiences, and like if I'm having a good time, it's like I was telling you earlier today that I met somebody walking in my apartment, and it was like the first person that it was like, hi, how are you? And we like had a conversation, and I was like, this is amazing. um and like it's
Right.
those things that like really matter to me, and so I think that that's like the forefront of my, but definitely like going into a show, and like if something goes wrong, if you're running late, if you just have a bad attitude, it will for sure affect the rest of my sales, like for sure. Because I'm just like, but if I'm in a good mood, like nothing can stop me, you know?
Yeah. I'm more of a, this thing happened. Like, let's say you forget your dolly and you're like, okay, now I got to carry all this shit. Is
Yeah.
there some way that you can get some help from somebody?
Yeah.
ask for a dolly or find some way to adjust with it, rather than saying, shit, I got to carry everything. Let's carry each one thing, instead of like, hey, maybe it doesn't hurt you to ask for help, or,
Totally.
is
Yeah.
there something that can be done versus like, what is the situation I'm in now and what can I do about it?
Yeah. I think that you and I are very similar in that regard where we don't let the small things really bother us anymore. I think that comes with time, you know? But like also you're very willing to be like, "Hey, can I like when you're done, could I use your dolly or something like that?" You know, and I'm totally willing to do that, you know? I'm also willing to help somebody out too, like you
Yeah.
are.
If you see somebody
Yeah.
like running late and you're almost set up, like, I'm helpful to be over there and be like, hey, is there anything I can help you? Like, can I help you unload or
Totally.
something?
Like we're the
Because you
British
already know
baking show.
they're in a bad mindset, or they're
Yeah.
in a rushing mindset and they're worried. So if you can just ease that a little bit for somebody when you're already ahead of the game,
Yeah.
plus they're probably gonna appreciate it, and that's probably gonna just make you feel better about yourself for that day that you helped somebody out.
Totally. And you met somebody new. And I've always like, I don't think you've ever seen the British baking show, but
The Great British Bake Off.
yeah.
Seen some of those. Rachel's watched all of them.
Okay, that and also the Great Pottery Throwdown. Like, there's something about like in England, I guess their culture or something. Like our reality TV shows, everybody's like, "I'm not gonna help you. Like, you got to get into that
Like,
room
sucks
on
for
time."
you.
Yeah, like sucks for you. And then, but then, like on all of the British like reality shows, they're like, "How can I help? Like, I'm already done. Like, what do you need?" And I've always like that's always stuck out to me because I'm like, that's really cool. Like, they're being super considerate, and I feel like, um, in the show market, a lot of people can be super competitive, and that's like I think the wrong way that we, especially as a community, should be looking at shows, especially with other potters. I mean, they're not your like they might be your competition, but like
the
come on.
amount of the amount of community they are versus competition
Yeah.
is, there's so much more your community and your peers than
Yeah.
your adversary. And
Yeah, and I mean like how many times have you been like, I don't have that item, but you know what, that guy down the street, like that guy down the row, he does. Like you should go down there and look at his, you know? Like those things go a long way, I feel.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was
That's
something that came in my mind and I forgot what I was gonna say about it, but
come on,
it'll come to
Rowan.
me. All right. Oh, I did want to say, I did remember what it was. Okay,
Good.
so one of those experiences, those interactions, there was somebody that came to the show on Saturday morning, very beginning of the show, and she came up and said, I'm a potter as well that's local to here, and I listen to Wheel Talk. So she
Oh,
came specifically from social media and seeing stuff, and she came for a carved mug. So she got one of my yellow carved mugs. Her name's Bridget.
that's my favorite color too.
So she's in Louisville, local there, and she was just saying how much she appreciated the stuff that we share, and building each other up to educate about things that other artists and makers don't really have time to talk about, or whether it's a
Yeah.
time thing where you just feel like you don't, like, there's other things that are more important, like making my inventory is more important than sharing my process to people for free, that
Yeah.
doesn't really do anything for me but it helps out other people. So she was very appreciative of that and had been listening for a bit, and I wanted to share that. So thanks, Bridget, for coming by. And I
Hi,
wanted to tell you that, and
Bridget.
I don't think I told you that, but
I saw it on your stories and I thought that was really cool. I like that. Was that your first like real, like in the wild sighting?
I think it might have been, or just I think at ClayCon, we had some people that said they were 2019. I mean, that was 4 months into us actually doing it.
No,
So
Claycon West doesn't matter. That doesn't count.
you mean just like public that's not
Yeah.
in the space of just potters?
Yeah, like in the wild, like you're not there for anything specifically other than a show, and like somebody's walking by and they're like, I know you from Wheel Talk. Like, that's
Yeah.
fucking
I mean,
cool.
she came just to see my booth and see me and
That's
get
awesome.
something. So yeah, that was nice. That was a good experience that I'll remember from that show. That I may
Yeah.
not remember a bunch of the other things, but I will remember that.
And look at that. And that, I feel like that's a really good segue to my next question about promotion and getting the name of the show out there, and like how you feel about how impactful advertisement is for like a show, like on your end and on the like the back end, the show's end.
Yeah, I don't really know what all goes into the advertising of the shows from the organizer's perspective. The only thing that I can see is, do I see the billboards or the news stations, and are they? I don't watch the news. I don't really drive around a lot, so I don't see a lot of that unless they share it on their social that, hey, check out this news station because we're on there talking about the show. Like,
Yeah.
I think the traditional media needs to be in there, but I think also like the social media advertising needs to be in there, showing that they're actively, you know, drumming up uh interest and, you know, stuff about the show so customers know. And people are on their phone so much that like throwing some money at Facebook advertising is beneficial.
Yeah.
And I didn't see any of that for this show that I did. Not to say that there wasn't any, but could there have been more? Yes. But I think it's also, are the organizers savvy with that, or do they have somebody on staff that
Right.
can help with that? I was, advertising for the show and like tagging them in different posts over time or in my stories, and like I didn't see any of them reposted. That's a simple thing, but also like, do they know how to do that? Do they not? Is it priority for them?
Well,
But
yeah,
I
and
think it,
also like Instagram is like the long game. I feel like Facebook is more of the short game in that regards.
yeah, I mean, Facebook, you could just throw money at boosting the event and
Right. And
for
you
a
can have
period
like
of
an
time.
actual event. Like, does it make sense to have an Instagram page for just one event that happens once a year, you know?
Yeah.
No. No, it
Or
doesn't.
yeah, I think they have theirs for a couple. They have a couple events that they host, but yeah,
Okay.
it's one of those short period of times that you put some effort into it to promote, the best of show last year and like some other artists coming up. It's a lot of work, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, where do you put your time and money toward? But
Yeah.
I think that falls back to what you can do is promoting it. So, you know, what I typically do is, I know a lot of my Instagram following is not local to me, so I don't throw, you know, three posts over, 3 weeks before the show, and like every week I'm promoting it, or all week before I'm promoting it, because I know that most of my audience is not going to be able to come because they're not local to me. So, but I do try to like tease it out in the stories. I let people know I have shows coming up in
Hmm.
my, the week of, to say, hey, I'm packing for the show. It's this weekend. Here's the days. Here's the times. And I share some photos from the show when I'm getting set up and I'm taking photos. I feel like a lot of people forget to do that, or they don't post it. I know you're busy a lot, so I understand people not posting when they're at shows, but I try to at least give somebody that's viewing it
Yeah.
that can't physically be there a taste of what it would be like at the show and what they could see and expect from me if they see me at a show.
It's also so easy to do, honestly. Like, if you're too busy, no, you're not too busy. You're not too fucking busy to take a fucking picture on your phone and just say, oh, I'm at the show this weekend. Come by and see us. Like, that is a
Yeah,
5-second thing that you can do, and it could earn you a follower from Wheel Talk coming to your show. You
there
know,
you go.
like it's such an easy and free thing to do, and it's very effective.
And definitely, I would encourage you to take pictures while you're at the show, because I feel like the
Yeah.
tables of work always look really nice, and they
Yeah.
do good on social media when you share them, because I
Yeah,
usually
for
get
sure.
a good impact of people that like those photos where you have a table
Yeah.
full of work and they can see the assortment, they can see all the colors together, and it's kind of pleasing for the eye because they
Yeah.
can't physically be there in person, but they can get a gist of, plus the sunlight's used. And I do like post like regular posts while I'm there, just for kind of documenting that I was there, and then anybody that's local that forgets,
Yeah.
they could stop by. So, but yeah,
Um,
it's up to you to promote it, because don't entirely rely on the. It's not entirely the host's responsibility and organizers to do all the promotion for you. You still have to understand where your customer base is. Do you have people in that area? Do you not? And that should factor in with like what you expect for the show and what you don't expect.
Yeah.
Sales or just people coming to buy your stuff.
I have a question. Because I felt like we probably should have started with this. How was your show this weekend?
No.
Like, was it a good show or was it a bad show?
It was a average show.
Okay.
I was gonna say above average, but I don't want to say above average. If it like on the whole, it was average.
How much did you make?
I made 1,700.
Okay.
I think that was. Yeah.
How much you spend?
Yeah, it was gross. $200 for the booth.
Okay. I mean, you almost made 10 times, so that's okay.
Yeah, I was expecting to make about 2,000. I think for the weekend. The first day was 1,000. The second day was like 700. And the reason
it was hot as fuck, though, wasn't it? The reason I say
average was because of that effort and the what do you call that? The time, not like the time lost doing the show versus doing something else. Whatever you call that. I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's like the time cost or something. I don't know. But yeah, the heat was killer. I'm getting more aware of the show is not just the 2 days. It's the Thursday of the Wednesday, Thursday of prep in the car so that I have everything I need. It's the Thursday night drive, 2 hours to be here a day before. It's the Friday setup. It's the Saturday, Sunday event. It's the teardown Sunday. It's the drive home. It's the getting the meals and all that effort, and then the like tail off on Monday, Tuesday when you're like not ready to get back to full steam, but
it's like a fucking vacation when you like come back and you're like, I need a day.
It's not a 2-day thing. It's like a 4-day thing. And that was my first 2-day show of the year. So it was good to get that one under my belt now, I think, because there's one coming up in July in Berea that is a 3-day. It's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I feel like that has better potential to be a great show. And
Can I come for that one?
Yeah, you can. Do you know where Berea's at?
Not a clue.
It's a little bit south of Lexington.
Yeah.
It's actually a big pottery area. Like their college there make pottery and they sell it, and it's a pretty good like craft town, and they do a lot of like brew making and like they're very craft heavy there. So I think you'll like it.
Bear, come and meet us there, and then I'll be there, and we can have a grand old time. I was just started singing the grand old flag. Okay, moving on. Yeah, we'll talk about it, and I want to come and help you sell at a show. That'll be fun.
Yeah, these 2-day shows are the biggest reason I was saying the average was the heat. It was if the weather was like 75, I would say it was probably going to be above average because the sales would have been better, and then also just I wouldn't have been so exhausted and miserable. Like Rachel was there, and she was at the end of it, like laying on the ground with the fan on her because it was cooler that way instead of just sitting down, just so hot. It was like in the 90s or mid 90s, maybe low 90s. I felt bad for the people walking around shopping because I'm like, if you don't have a cold drink constantly while you're walking around, it is miserable.
Okay, so did you have a cold dish towel that you draped over your shoulders? Because that's the trick.
I did. I like to keep the wash rag just to like keep the sweat off me.
Also,
I did the whole dish towel, like I had a bag with ice in it and did that and got it wet and stuff, and you put it on your neck, but it keeps you okay for like 15 minutes or 10 minutes, and then it's just wet and like warm because it's already accustomed to like your body.
No, you got to take it off and flick it. That's how you get it cold again. Flick it.
You just flick it?
Flick it. Yeah, you flick it a few times, and then the air cools the water down again. Yeah. Also, you can just
air cools the water.
Yeah. Also, you can just dunk your whole T-shirt in water. No, I've definitely done that.
I'm not doing that.
100% done that.
I mean, you jumped in the fucking river, like, with your
It's
show organized.
110 degrees in Leavenworth, so it's like
Oh my god.
when me and Val were there this last weekend,
Jump in the river.
it was 100 degrees in Leavenworth. Now, it is a dry heat, and I completely 150% understand the difference between a dry heat and a humid heat. I understand. It's totally different. But it's still fucking hot. And so, yeah, I mean, I've done the works. Also, has it ever gotten so hot that your pots were too hot to touch?
I mean, there were people touching the pots on this one table. They were like, "Ooh, those are really hot." Like, I felt like I could have put an egg in there and it would have cooked really nicely inside my spoon rest.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay. We got distracted. I'm sorry.
Can I tell you a funny story from the beginning of it?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we set up Friday and we have our tent walls and stuff on there, and then I get there Saturday morning, and it was a booth across from me, and there was a guy sitting there. I think it was the husband of the maker that was helping her set up, but he was just sitting there watching, like he wasn't really doing anything at that point. And he looks over and I'm tearing the walls off, and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna take all your walls off, huh? You're not keeping any of them up?" And I'm like, "Nope."
That was a bad mistake.
And I was like, "What? Did I took the walls down?"
Yeah, because then you can't shade yourself.
No, it was good. The thing is, I set the booth up in a U shape outward.
Uh-huh.
And everybody else had the whole inward booth thing, the old school, like.
Oh, yeah.
So I was actually right in the middle of the tent, and everybody had the tables on the outside. But the way that the sun shifted throughout the day, the edge of the tent was all under shade. At
Nice.
least on more than half of the booth, it was under shade. So customers were fine. But it was one of those where I got that question, and Rachel was like put off a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I feel like it was like a condescending, like,
you're not gonna put your walls down, like, yeah,
keep your walls up, because all the people on both sides of me had their walls up, like they're in their little bubble, people
you
walk
sold
by
better than them.
And I had the tent walls down and all the stuff on the I didn't do the old school like U shape where people walk into the booth. I think people appreciated it. I got that from COVID, and I adjusted and I tried it, and I think it was appreciated.
Okay, I feel like we're sidetracking a little bit, but I think it's important because it's hot and we need to talk about this shit. How to keep cool in your tent. Okay, so also if you're at a show and your neighbors are nice, attaching your walls to their tent and making a tent is extremely helpful.
Do you mean when they're with your side-by-side neighbors or the ones behind you? Or what?
Anything. With anybody that's lined up with you, you can make your walls and scoot them over and then just roll them up and clamp them to their walls, and it'll make a little tent, and it cools everybody down because it's, there's no heat coming through, because usually you're like 2 feet apart, 3 feet apart or whatever. If you're butt to butt, then it doesn't matter. But
we were still about 5 feet apart to this time. 4 feet.
So that would have been a really good time to like just scoot your walls over and close them up, because then everybody's customers are like in the shade. So that's really nice. Also, you can put fans up in the top of your booth, and also portable air conditioners. You can sometimes find them at Goodwill.
How is that powered?
Just by a plug-in. So if you have power at a show, then that's when those work. But a
lot of those Home Depot Ryobi fans were around, I bet, this weekend.
Yeah.
I felt bad for the artists that didn't have any fans. They had the hand fan, and I was like, oh man, that's brutal.
Also, I always carried an umbrella and put an umbrella on my chair.
Yeah, there were some of those around.
Super nice. Yeah, it's just like so important. One time Yuri found one of those portable air conditioners. It's like big ass portable air conditioner. He found it at Goodwill for $1.69.
Oh my gosh.
It was on a Monday.
On a Monday. They're just giving shit away.
Well, because they always price the tags from the week before at $1.79 or whatever on the Monday. and
It's
he
where you
found it
like
on the
hide
Monday.
it. You go there the week before,
I
you hide it
know.
somewhere, and then they find it, and they're like, "All right, I'm coming back on Monday."
Yeah. But yeah, those are my tips. And also putting your feet in water helps too.
Oh, that's a good option. I was
Yeah.
wearing tennis shoes and socks, but I mean, I could see if you're wearing sandals or something, you could just keep yourself cool somehow.
Yeah, yeah, put your feet in water for sure.
Does the tent wall thing, does that require their walls to be down as well?
No, one of you has to like unroll one of your walls and just clip it up to the next.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see that. Okay. But yeah, I mean, the tent walls are generally, 10 feet or so tall or 8 feet tall.
Mhm.
Not 10 feet,
Yeah.
probably like 8 feet tall.
Or
So,
8 or 7, 7. I don't know, but yeah, super handy for
yeah, that's a
when
good
that's
idea. I
needed.
hadn't thought about doing that, but
Yeah.
a good option.
Yeah, especially if you have like a jeweler next to you that has like all metal, then nobody can touch their shit if it's like in the sun, you know?
Yeah.
What else? What else do we talk about? Um, well, in here you have some notes about like having enough inventory and like having the right stuff
Yeah.
and
I've typically brought way too much stuff, and I regret bringing so much stuff. Like this weekend, especially, it's tough because you judge it based on a good show that you've had in the past, and at least that's how I think about it. I'm like, okay, I had a really good show on, May 1st, and it was a 1 day show for 6 hours, and I sold so much
Mhm.
stuff. I sold like 55 spoon rests. So I'm like, for a 2 day show, I might sell that many spoon rests again. So I need to bring that many or like 80 spoon rests or 100 spoon rests so I have enough
Mhm.
options. I'm like, okay, I need a lot of options. So if somebody doesn't like something, then they can pick from one of the batch they do like. And inevitably, I bring way too many of stuff. Like, I brought way too many shot glasses because the shot glasses with the airplanes didn't really sell that much. Shot glasses didn't really sell that much, anyways. And I think it's the type of show you're at. And I brought way too many bowls, and those tend to take up a lot of space when you're storing them in the bins and stuff. And they're kind of heavy once you get them all in there. And the bowls are most likely to break for me if I'm traveling with stuff and they
Mhm.
break. It's gonna be bowls because they're nested inside each other, and I'm not
Yep.
really taking care of them that well. So plus they're the worst thing for me to pack. I hate putting them up at the end of the show. Like mugs and spoon rests and chocolate, like those are all fine, but the bowls suck.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I freaking hate bowls.
So I
I
need to just
love
figure
throwing
out
them.
like, okay, it's fine to not have all the options. Leave stuff at home. It's not a big
Mhm.
deal. And I probably would have actually left all of my carved mugs at home too.
Mm. Yeah, but you wouldn't have sold that one to Bridget.
I wouldn't have. Yeah.
And that
I
was the
sold
most
I
important sale of the
sold
day.
two of the carved mugs, and I just think it's an online sale. I
Oh, I
think it's
agree.
more conducive to online because the price point, people understand when they're coming
Yeah,
from my Instagram and they're buying that. They understand what goes in the process, and the price is legitimized better than somebody that's coming by that doesn't already know my stuff.
I
The
agree.
other mug that I
100%.
sold with that was somebody else that I know.
Mhm.
So,
That's like what Isaac said to me like a long time ago. He said that, hi Isaac, love you. Um, he said that he he uh, he can sell his wall mugs online and he sells his regular shit in town.
yeah, it's one of those that is not going to be a spur of the moment, love it, gonna buy it for most people.
Yeah.
Not that you can't sell them, but is that all those mugs and that effort that went into transporting that whole bin of mugs worth bringing them? Like, I would probably in the future keep the black and white ones because they're a lower price.
Mhm.
Plus, they can intermix with my other mugs nicely, and I would just have one mug rack instead of two.
Mhm.
So, that's less inventory in the car, and then that's less work setting up too. So, and tearing down.
Did you set up the carved mugs in rainbow again?
Yeah, they're
for
slowly
Pride.
dwindling.
I mean, it probably wasn't necessarily for Pride, but it's kind of fun that it's on Pride Month.
Yeah, it
So
just happened to be. But
yeah.
I mean, I get a lot of eyeballs on them when they're walking by and they're like, "Oh, look!" And they like turn back and they're like, "Oh, look at those."
See,
Oh,
maybe you have to keep them because they're your gotcha. They're your like, what did we used to call that? They're your like, um,
we called them cute puppies. I mean, I called them little puppies that'll like draw people in. That's
yeah,
what I
yeah,
said the air
yeah,
plants were. But
totally. Yeah, they're like a cute puppy. That's good. Or a
you know,
kitten.
one thing that actually got a lot of attention was having the dog bowl out there with water in it.
I know. I told you. I told you. I told you. I told you. The dog bowl is the key, especially if
Lots
people
of,
have dogs.
I mean, the number of people that had dogs that bought stuff was probably very slim, but the number of comments I got of like, "Oh, thank you for having the dog water out. That's
Yeah.
nice." And then I even had neighbors that were like, "Oh, you got a dog? Hey, they've got a nice, beautiful bowl over here that they can drink from if you need some water." So like, I didn't even have to say anything. My neighbors were saying stuff.
Totally. One time I had this dog come up and it was like so hot and it was like the cutest dog. I think it was like some sort of labradoodle and he stuck both of his paws and laid down on the ground and just stuck his head in the bowl. It was the cutest thing in the world. Anyway, moving on.
That's great.
uh yeah. What do you think what do you think would have to happen for you not to come back to a show?
Okay, so this weekend show would probably be one that I will not do again
Mhm. It was
because
pretty far.
I mean it's 2 hours. I get to stay at my parents, so it's not like crazy. But
Mhm.
the I've done the show a number of times. It's not the first time I've done it. So this was my very first show that I've ever done was at this show,
Okay.
and I did it a second time, and then the third year I took off. I didn't do it, and then last year was COVID and they canceled it, and then I tried it again this year. So I kind of tried it this year because the booth fee rolled over from 2020.
Yeah.
So I kind of was like, let's give it another try because there's probably not a lot of shows going on, and we're kind of getting back into the mix. So it was one of those kind of desperation shows that I added to the list just to see how it went. Um, I think it has to do a lot with, like I was saying earlier, the effort and all that went into, like, was it worth all the effort? And that's going to be the main factor. If I would have brought two less bins of work and it was not so damn hot, not that I can control the heat. Like you can't apply for a show with the intention of,
Right.
is it going to be hot as hell? But I mean,
Unless
you
it's in
can do that.
August.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose to do that. Like I've avoided doing a week at the July 4th weekend show for like West Side Market because I know I've done it before like 3 years ago and it was or 2 years ago and it was hot as hell and I was like, I'm never doing this again because it's just brutal and I'm like, nope, I'll put that in the back burner. I'm not going to do that one. So I am doing a show on July 3rd, but it's indoor and
I'm
it's like a
so
pop up. So I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that.
I'm so excited to see, like, I've been hearing so many people that are like, fucking August is gonna be brutal. And I'm just like, um, like all the people around me are like, it's so hot right now and it's like 85 degrees, 80 degrees, and I'm like have my windows open and I'm like, this is great. And then and I mean, but it has been hot, don't get me wrong, but I'm like so curious and so excited to see what August is like, to see how miserable it is. Because as far as the winter went, it was not bad at all. So like,
The winters aren't that bad though.
yeah. So I'm just like really curious and really
I mean,
excited.
when you're used to like a bunch of stuff, it's not that bad. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I wrote a few notes on here. So obviously sales has a factor in there. I sold it the show last weekend, and it was a 65 or $75 tent for the day. It was one
Hmm.
day, 10 to 3, and I sold like $1,100 worth. This
That's worth it.
weekend, I sold $1,700. I had to drive to Louisville. I had to set up the night before, do the 2 days, tear down, and then drive home. So that was like a 4 or 5 day ordeal
On your
versus
anniversary.
yeah. So it was
Hi, Trin.
the ones that's a 1 day, the one last weekend, that was no biggie. That was or 2 weekends ago. That was a 2 day effort. That was a pack my car up because I already have everything ready. I don't need to like pack extra stuff and have enough. I just keep everything that's already packed and I just load it in my car. That's like a 2 day thing. And then I'm done for the day afterwards and get some dinner and chill out and like I'm good to go. I still have a Sunday to like recharge a little bit, but and then just the customer interactions and sales. Man, this train is very choo-choo today.
Can we have an ADD moment for a second?
Sure.
So, somebody, like when I was moving, literally somebody messaged me and said, "Wait, are we going to be able to hear the train on the podcast still?" And I was like, yes, the train will still be there. So here's my thought. Here's my thought.
Somebody was worried that we weren't going to have a third host anymore. They thought we were booting the third host.
Yes. So here's my thought. I think that in our intro, we need to introduce the train, and I think that we should have a competition for the name.
Oh.
We should have a name competition for train, and then in the intro, just have a train, like have it whistle.
We need to catch it when it does it and like not talk.
Right. I think it's pretty much on the hour. So that's what. So this is a plan, okay? We'll have a competition of what the train's name is, and then starting our second year of podcasting, the train can be our third host.
Oh my gosh, this is great. And it'd be like, I'm Ryan Darren from RD Ceramics in Southgate, Kentucky, and I'm Becca Otis from Five Lives Pottery in Monroe, Washington. And it's just like, and welcome to Wheel Talk.
And welcome to Wheel Talk. I'm so excited for this.
I agree.
I think we have another one coming. Anyway, moving on. This has been a great clusterfuck of. Yeah, there's another one.
So those are the main factors that would factor into whether I'm going to do it again or not. The sales do have a big weight on it, but it's mostly all the effort that went into it.
Yeah.
Leading up to, during, and then after.
I think that it's really deceiving. Sales can be super deceiving, right? Because, like, you go to the show for 2 days or whatever, and okay, it's like this. I did a show in Washington, in Seattle, on Christmas Eve, the week before Christmas Eve. It was like 9-day show. It was fucking insane. So
9 days?
9 days.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible decision.
Terrible.
It was a horrible decision. And it was like a certain amount of money. It was a lot of money. I think it was like $300. No, it was $450. And then they gave us money back because they told us that these booths would be a certain size. So we didn't bring a booth. They were like these buildings that were constructed. Mm-hmm. And then we had to share. Okay, so we had to share. So it was like this tiny ass booth that we had 2 people in. Thankfully, my booth mate was dope. And it was cold as fuck. Cold as fuck. It was like the coldest winter.
Washington Park, like buildings that were 10 by 10 buildings, and they had heaters inside that was like bearable.
Yeah, but these were like 6 by 8.
Yeah.
And
you had somebody in there with you.
Yes.
That you might not have known, or you probably didn't know. But
I didn't know, but she's really cool, and thankfully she was awesome.
That's good.
Like, Yeah, and we literally had to sit on heating pads. That's how cold it was. And but so it was 9 days, and I think I only made like $3,000. Like it wasn't even that much. And like you've made more than that on a 2-day show. And
On a 1-day show.
on a 1-day show. And like I think I only let's be clear, I did not have great pottery back then. It wasn't fantastic. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't fantastic. And but like I think about it now and I'm like I would never do that again. Ever. Ever. But at the time I was like, "Oh yeah, I made money. Like it's great." And I'm like, "Oh god, no. No, 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 no. No, no, no." Like the amount of effort that went through it, I like there were so many days I fired all it was back when I was firing on my front porch, fired all night, like woke up, unloaded, like it was terrible.
How much do you think the type of work that you sell and you make factors into that? Because for me, I rely heavily on quantity of sales. That's
Yeah.
what's going to get me a good number. It's not buying 5 big ticket items that's going to give me a good day or a bad day. It's, did I make 30 sales or 40 sales this day?
Yeah.
That's going to add up to the expectation that I have. So I rely heavily on the number of customers coming through because I need to convert, you know, let's say 30% of the people that come to the booth or 50% or something like that. Because I know a lot of them are going to buy smaller ticket items like spoon rests that are $15 a pop. And that is a big part of it versus people that are selling these huge yard sculptures that are, they only got to sell 2 of them to make it worth them coming for the weekend. You know, I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's like I mean ideally you have everything from a tw- like $1,500 piece to a $20 piece, you know? Obviously, because then if you sell that $1,500 piece, you're like, sweet, fuck yeah, you know? But but yeah, I mean, it definitely matters. I think that the higher price items, those people tend to move towards those fine art shows that like the clientele knows what they're getting into when they go to it, you know?
Right. I mean, I usually feel like that for the yard art people that have the big sculptures or the
Yeah.
painters that have the big things. I mean, the
Mhm.
photographers can get away with having a bigger variety of
Yeah.
work. I mean, maybe the other ones can have the ability to have that variety of price point like you're talking about. But
Yeah.
I feel that way about when I look at like the painters. I'm like, how many do they sell, or how many do they need to sell to make it worth it? Because I couldn't do that. Like I get the little highs of the each sale,
Yeah.
so that, I mean, that's kind of the way I work. But
Most painters have prints. Most painters have prints. And they also have jaclés, which are like prints that are framed essentially. Um, but yeah, like they do have like a variation, but some painters don't. Like there's some painters that just go in there only originals, and yeah, I mean it is like one painting can make that whole entire weekend. But yeah, that's tough. It's tough. Like I've seen both
and the
in
amount of
the
effort
same
that they
show.
have to set their booths up is so much
Yeah.
more than me. Even though I have a lot of things to put out, like the effort to get my tent up, because a lot of them have the poles and stuff, and
Yeah.
like that's way a
Oh
lot.
yeah, those like gnarly tents that have like what are those called? The like
It's
ever
got the
somethings.
I mean, they got the domes and stuff normally, and it's
And
it's
they're
the
like
the
the
poles that go
ugliest.
together.
Yeah, and they're like the ugliest yellow brown color, like beige color in the United States. It's like the worst color.
It looks like a pea stained white or something.
Yeah. I think it's funny that those are like the tents that are like the ones at the higher price shows, but they look so shitty. Like
Something funny from the end of the show. So
yeah.
it was The timing was weird with the actually the timing was a big factor that could play into whether I do it again or not. The show both days was 11 to 5 both days.
Mm-hmm.
Hot as hell, right? So the Saturday, it was tailing off the last hour and a half, like starting at 3 to 3:30 until
Yeah.
5. It was pretty long. And then generally, I feel like the 2-day shows they typically end the Sunday an hour earlier, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's typical as a show goer and as a seller that knows a lot of shows and or the ones that I apply to.
Yeah, I feel
Generally,
like they
it
do.
starts at the same time, but it ends an hour earlier, just
And if
for
it's
the
hot as
mostly for
fuck,
the
they're
sake
like,
of the
pack it
artist.
up. Yeah.
Yeah. So theirs was don't tear down before 5. And I was like, man, why did we even start at 11? I feel like it should have been 10 to 4 and then 10 to 3 or
Yeah.
something like that. Because by the time we hit 3 o'clock on Sunday, it was definitely dead. And it was
Yeah.
just so hot. I feel like that hour at the end is mostly for the artists to like, hey, like, we're done here.
Yeah, like go
So
around to
they're
the other artists and be like, what do you got left? Like, what do you
so
want to
the
trade?
yeah, so the person next to me was a painter and they started tearing down at like 4:30 or 4:15, like
Painters have
4:15.
no chill. They're like, fuck
And
you. I'm out.
and it was interesting because there was a customer that was up the way and they were talking to somebody else and it might have been another painter and they were like, "Hey, you should go down and check out this booth." And it was the painting booth that was tearing down. And they came up and they were like, "Hey, how's it going? We heard from a friend of ours that we should check out your booth." And they were like 95% tore down of their work and then the tent was still up. So they were like
Mm-hmm.
almost done. And it was kind of the odd conversation and they were like, "Hey, do you have like an Instagram or a Facebook or website we can look up?" Expecting that they would just hand over a business card. And they were like, "No, sorry, do you want us to unpack?" And they were like kind of like taking the stuff off to like show them like they're that's one of the reasons where you don't like unpack early because it's like you never know. Like I play it out to the end, see what happens. I'm fine if I get a $15 sale at the end. Like I don't care. But that's just me. I don't know. And
It's
then maybe it's just the personality of if they had a bad weekend, they'll pack up 30
yeah.
minutes early and they it could shoot themselves in the foot not getting a customer. And then they were like, "Oh, well, let me I've got some pictures on my phone. Let me show you some pictures on my phone." And they were like not letting them get away kind of thing and it was kind of interesting, but it was like, yeah, that's why you don't tear down early.
Uh, I in Leavenworth, especially when it's super fucking hot outside. God. I just thought of a story. Anyway, in Leavenworth, especially when it's like super fucking hot outside, we want to get the fuck out of there like as fast as possible. And you literally just put your headphones in. Like some people put their front um
Curtain on?
curtain down so that people are like, no, 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 we don't want you here. And like people will come back and like try to get sale and start, but they're like, sorry, we're closed. Like, like, nope. But also, I was thinking about one time when it was so, so fucking hot in Leavenworth, and I was throwing that weekend, and basically the thing about me throwing out there is that I had to wash it up if I got anything on the cement, and every time that I'd have to wash up the concrete, I'd get like a 5-gallon bucket and fill it up with water because there's like a thing that you can fill up with water. And I would pull it out there and then I'd fill it all the way full and step in the bucket so it would overflow onto the concrete and
Mm-hmm.
stand in the bucket and mop the concrete while I was standing in the bucket.
Oh,
Because it
you had
was
to
so
mop the concrete? You couldn't just pour it
like
over and just let it disperse?
like brush it and like get it disperse it but um I once was doing it and this lady took a picture of me because she thought it was so funny that I was standing in this bucket. I'm like, it's 150 degrees out here. Like, what do you expect me to do?
I could see you doing that. Totally.
It's, you gotta do the things, you know.
At least you didn't like trip or something and you just fall over with a bucket.
That's true.
Oh man, that's great.
I feel like this episode's gonna be a little short.
I don't know where we're at. I haven't even been looking.
We're at an hour and 20 minutes.
There's some other points that I had in here about making it a good show.
Will you talk about those when I'm gonna go to the bathroom?
Oh, I did want to talk about, let's see, pleasant experience. Yeah.
Okay, talk your brains off.
Go
I'll be
ahead,
back.
go ahead. So I did want to talk about some things I noted in here about some potential issues that could come up and squashing them before they occur. And that could just be keeping a checklist of things you need to take with you. I mentioned earlier, do you have your tent weights? Like, do you have your bungee cords? Because if your tent weights are there, but you don't have bungee cords, you can't bungee it to the top. That does no good. Remember the roof of your tent, because I forgot that before. I brought a new tent and I forgot the roof. Hey, you need that because otherwise you have no shade. I always make sure, and I did this a couple days before, but make sure you know how much cash you have in your box. Do you have enough ones? Because I was making a bunch of change and a lot of my pieces could be bought with cash. This weekend I didn't really have a lot of cash payments, but make sure you have enough change because it could be stressful to not have enough and then you're like, I don't have change for you. Can I just give you a bunch of coins? Or you got to ask them to use a card when they're not ready to and stuff like that. And, you know, if it is really hot, having a battery charger is good because your battery will drain on your phone quicker, or, you know, throw it into low power mode so it won't drain your batteries quick. That sucks when you're like ready to check out and your battery's getting really low, or you're like, am I going to last throughout the day? And also with the battery charger, make sure your square reader is charged if you're using something like that that's remote and it's not plugged up to your phone. It's not the swipe one that plugs into your phone. You know, making sure you have that charged is essential. I've had that and it's been down to like 2 bars before, and I'm like, oh shit, good thing I have a battery charger and good thing I have the cord to charge it while I'm here.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
That's essential. And then one thing that I keep a lot of that I need to give people, well, not need to, but I like to have the little thank you card folded things that I give people that has all of my business info on. It's got a few pictures of my work, and it's got
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Wait, you just like went away. Are you okay?
Yeah, the audio sounded very loud for some reason.
Oh, it sounded really quiet over on this end.
Oh, I don't know. So the thank you cards, I give those out that basically says like, thanks for supporting Handmade. Here's how I make my work. And it's great to go with gifts if people are giving it to somebody else and they don't know how it's made and all that stuff, or they want to be able to contact the seller. So it's basically my business card and then some. And I like to make sure I have enough printed off, cut out, folded up, so I have like 60 or 80 with me at the show. And then I always have the little what shows to find me at next, because it's like, hey, I've got 6 other shows. If somebody comes back and sees me, they can use a coupon that I have on the bottom of that sheet to come back and be a repeat customer, or they could buy online if they like their stuff and they want to, maybe they gift that to somebody, but they want to come back and buy something for themselves, or, you know, something spurs in their mind. They start using the item more and they're like, you know what, I want to get a mug now. So it's a way for them to just be a repeat customer. And then it was also a good time for me to talk up. A lot of people there were asking what other shows I do or whatever shows I have coming up. And then I was doing the talking up the Backyard Craft show that I have coming up in July, which is the only other show that I have in Louisville. And it was nice to be like, hey, I'm doing this show in July. We started it last year during the pandemic when there were no shows
What
going on.
date is it?
July 24th.
Oh, good to know.
Saturday, July 24th.
Cool.
And it was like, hey, it's going to be 5 minutes up the road. And then there was actually a customer that was there that said, hey, I came to your show. It was at your parents or something, or
Damn you should have had like a little card that you put in everybody's bag about your backyard craft show.
Yeah, we did not get there quick enough with the printing of a flyer, but I did give them the sheet when they would ask that. Even if they bought something or didn't buy something, I would give them the sheet with the upcoming shows, and I would circle the Backyard Craft Show, or
okay, good.
I'd talk with them about it, and even a couple people I like wrote the address down.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's a hurdle. They have to go to the website to find
Yeah.
the address. So first they get that sheet, and the sheet doesn't have my website on it. It has all
Yeah.
the info about my like buying again and upcoming shows, but it doesn't say RyanDervinCeramics.com. So they have to find that, and then they also have to look at the events page and see the address and write it down and all that stuff. So
Yeah. Um.
yeah. So make sure you have enough, like, at a simple thing, have enough business cards, because people are going to ask and people are going to pick them up. I tend to actually not give out as many business cards and not have as many. They're out there on the table, but
Yeah.
some people are just browsing and they just want to take something easy. So I don't feel bad about letting them take those. And some people are like, keep the business cards close to the chest and they wait for somebody to ask for it so they don't give them out,
Yeah.
because some people feel like it's a waste, and the number of people that actually do something with the business card is so slim that they just don't even give them out unless they get asked. So
I think it's really good to tape a business card to your table and have a note next to it says take a picture. Um. But also have enough bags.
oh yeah,
I feel like now would be like how many times have I given away mugs because I forgot all my bags or I needed more and somebody was driving through Leavenworth and so I was like, "Could you please go to my house and grab these bags out of my
yeah,
kitchen? The door's not locked."
yeah, yeah. I brought an extra large bag of bags. I actually didn't need to dig into them. If I sold as much on Sunday as I did on Saturday, I would have been almost at capacity to run out of some of the smaller bags.
Yeah.
But
That's why I
hey,
only have
good to
one
have them
size.
there if you need them and whatnot.
Cubs
So
fan. Cubs fan.
I might need to order some more bags. I think I've got a whole other case of my smallest ones, but I think I'm getting almost to capacity on my Cub. I might have another 100 left or 150, but
If you don't know what we're talking about, Cub is the name of the bags that I use. And Ryan uses them too, but he also uses the rose bag,
I think it's called
right?
Rose. I don't think it has the accent on it, so I
I
think it's
think it's
considered a
rose
Rose.
because it's for wine bottles.
No, it's
Right?
not.
Oh, it's
It's
the
only
little
like
one. It is
it's
rose. It
only
is rose.
like 6 inches tall or 7 inches
Yeah.
tall.
He also uses the tiny ass bag that costs the exact same amount of money, and it actually might even be more
It's
expensive.
not tiny ass. It's Rose and it's Cub. Unless you're considering the Rose the tiny ass bag.
Yeah, the rose is the tiny ass bag.
Okay, I was gonna say I have sleeves too. Those are just for spoon rest. If people just buy a spoon rest, I just put that in a sleeve.
Oh, cheap. Kidding.
It's nice. I get 1,000, and it was like not that much money. Son of
Cheap.
Trying to throw that in there.
Once a show.
I wasn't calling you a son of a bitch. I was saying, son of a bitch, she got me.
Son of a bitch. I also want to say, if you haven't been laughing through this entire show, I feel like this might be one of the funniest shows we've done, or maybe it's the funniest show to me. I haven't eaten any food today, so I'm kind of a little delirious. Do we have anything else?
Do you have anything for? I mean, what do you prioritize with a show, and what makes it good or bad, or whether you wouldn't return or not? I know this was a lot of me talking, but
Oh,
you know,
yeah, there's a lot of good
what's
pieces.
forefront in your mind about shows? I mean, I've done a bigger variety of shows than you have probably, but you could have
Well, I
different
think that,
preferences.
wow, all of a sudden got really quiet. You don't have your towel on your computer. That's
There's
what's going on.
actually there's actually a little blanket in front of it.
I see. Anyway, yeah, I've done like a lot of Christmas shows that are like central checkout shows. And because, obviously that's like during a time that Leavenworth wouldn't be going and it's Christmas. And I think that, yeah, I mean, like I look at like how much work I have to do, especially during Christmas time because that's such a busy time already. So if it's one of those ones that I can drop it and leave it, those are great. I love those shows where you can just like it's a central checkout, everybody leaves out the same like door and they they have like cash registers, and then you get like an assigned number, and then when
You just
the
label all your work with that number on the
yeah,
bottom
with that
price tag.
number, and then they put it in the register for that. And I've done a few shows like that, and that's how Leavenworth works too, but it's, a little different. But those ones, I really like those ones because it's such minimal effort. You just like drop it off. And if I don't make a ton of money on those shows, it doesn't really matter to me, because it's like all I did was set it up and take it down. Like
Do
that's it.
you interact with customers at the table throughout the day?
No,
Typically,
no,
you usually aren't physically there at all.
you're not even there. Yeah.
Oh,
And a lot of them you couldn't even be there. Like you like wouldn't be able to like
yeah.
be
See, I
present,
do. The
face.
only shows that have been like that for me are the Queen City Clay ones, the holiday ones, and they take a 20% cut. But I feel like I need to be there to sell. If I wasn't physically there, I would probably sell like 70% of what I would sell if I was physically there, or 60%.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's
Like,
also an
well,
easy show for me.
but you're like it's set up so that you can sell your stuff. Like these ones aren't even set up. These are set up like a store. Like you just walk
I
through and
gotcha.
you like pick things up. Like they're not expecting anybody to be there.
Sounds
So,
kind of like just a consignment situation that you just put your stuff in
yeah.
there, and then
Yeah,
they have a
it's
special
basically a
event to
pop-up.
bring people there.
Yeah. So like those I actually look for shows like that just because or I used to just because it's easy to just dump it. Like you could even do two shows that weekend if you did it like that. Like you can just dump your stuff, leave it there and then
Right,
go. A lot of the times they make you work like one of the shifts and that's
right.
like part of the deal, but that's not hard at all.
What's the cut
And
normally when you do those?
20
20%.
or 21, 22, 23, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But
I feel like those are
sometimes
generally worth it. That's not a bad percentage. I mean,
yeah.
like we said, it's kind of like a consignment situation.
Pottery's hard though, and I feel like not all pottery, but like some pottery's hard in a Christmas setting because it may not vibe with the Christmas look. You
Yeah. Are
gotta
you
kind of dig in.
generally doing that among other potters that are
No,
there,
it's
or it's
like
you're the
crafters.
only potter?
Yeah,
And then there's a lot of like Christmas themed
exactly.
fabric and
Yeah.
textiles, all that kind of stuff.
So yeah, I look for those and like those ones. If I don't make a ton of money, I'm still probably gonna go back because it's like no, if I lose money, obviously no. But
Such
like
low effort.
yeah, but it's such low effort that it's like, well, why not? Um, and so I've had a lot of shows. I like that's most of the show that I do during the winter. And yeah, I mean, but like regular stand-up shows, like where you go in, I think that also I look for security. If there's like if you're leaving overnight, they need to have security. Like I'm like there are
I feel
some
like
shows where you
that's
have to pack up that night and then set up the next morning
yeah,
again
fuck
on
that.
a 2-day show and like fuck that. Like run away. If you run away.
It's
If
not
that
worth that effort. Yeah, if you
yeah,
have to do
it's
this,
not worth it.
I actually had to do that at oh man, what was it? Oh, it was the Washington Park show. I did one in the fall, but it was out in the square. So it was
Yeah.
literally in the park downtown.
Yeah.
So like great during the day, at night kind of questionable. But it's also a really big park and it's like they're not going to have security just roaming. I mean they could, but if they only have 10 tents out there, is it worth having security for 10 tents?
Right.
So you pay for 2 days, but you have to tear down. You have to
That's a
set up.
lot.
But I mean, the sales ended up being actually, the sales were probably kind of comparable to this weekend, but it was Cincinnati, so it was like
Yeah.
a 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
Like there, it's like, okay, I, it might have been 2000 or a little more than 2000, but like I would say I had a smaller setup that was a little bit easier, but I did have to tear down and set back up. So that is definitely a factor.
Can we also talk about before we kind of like go, can we cuz I feel like a lot of people are going to be listening to this and being like small town. I'm thinking specifically of a few people right now like small town uh just like what I was in and the show that you go to maybe doesn't make $1,000, like what were you making at the beginning? Like when you started doing shows and like when you were starting, like $1,000, $4,000,
Oh,
$2,000, like
yeah,
that's a lot of like that's a lot. Like it's a lot of money. And I feel like
right.
it takes time to get to that. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you have this like weird magic touch. But
Yeah.
let's talk about like what you started at
Okay.
versus what you're ending
Yeah,
at.
let's if I want to compare that exact same show, my very first show, 2016 summer, I made $900 in my very first one.
For what show?
The Arts on the Green. It was the exact same show,
Okay.
but it was
And
nine
what
hundred
did you
dollars
make
for
this
two
year?
days. This year I made 1,700.
Okay. So you
That's
almost doubled.
1,700 is the best I've ever done at that show. I think 2 years ago when I did it, or 3 years ago when I did it, it probably increased to maybe like 1,500 or 1,200 or something like that. But it wasn't significant year over year. It was like $400
Yeah.
compared to the year before. But looking at the growth of my work, it's not enough to make it for 2 days. Well, for my very first show, $900 over 2 days was like, oh, I'm ecstatic because I sold $900. I think I still spent like 150 or 200 for the booth, but I sold 900. So I was like, hey, I have no expectations. I'm just happy to be
Hmm.
doing a show. But I mean, hey,
Yeah.
I get really happy about doing a farmer's market down the street from me. The booth is $25 and I'm happy about a $600 day. That's a good day for me because it's an easy 4 hour setup. It's in the morning and I could be in and out of there in 30 minutes.
See, and I think the difference between like some place that you're at and like some place where I was at is that like especially on the West Coast, they don't really appreciate pottery, I feel like, as much as they do in the middle of the country for some reason. But like for you, a good farmer's market is $600. For me, a fantastic farmer's market was $300. Like
Yeah.
the best you could get to was $300. And it was like what, a 20 buck, whatever,
Yeah.
but that still was worth it.
Yeah, I'm
Be-
not expecting 600 typically for a farmer's market. I've
right.
grown to expect at least
Yeah.
400 because of
I
doing it all in
guess
2020. But
right.
yeah, I
I
see what you're
guess
saying.
what I'm saying is that, like, especially in different parts of the country, there are different expectations for what a show gives you. And you shouldn't like look past that because what you're giving, like the numbers that you're giving to everybody out there, is like I think exceptionally good. Like you're doing quite well, you
Yeah, I
know?
think this is all based on my own situation and my
Yeah.
history of selling of what I come to expect.
Right.
Expecting
And you're
2,000 from this show could seem like, whoa, I would be ecstatic about 1,700 when you thought you were going to get 2,000, or I'm
yeah.
happy that I made, twice my booth fee or something.
Yeah. And like the fact that you're in Cincinnati, there's like pottery collectors in Cincinnati. Like, there's it's a thing,
Yeah,
like it
and there's a lot
is
of shows. People become accustomed to seeing a lot of pottery. They go to
right.
shows to look for pottery.
Exactly. So like that's the thing. Like whereas in Washington, if you go to a show, you can expect one to two other potters maybe. And like nobody's there looking for the potters. They're there looking for the jewelers. They're there looking, they're not
Hmm.
necessarily there looking for the potters. So I feel like that should be, at least acknowledged just because I know if I I know if I
Uh,
was listening to this, I'd be like, meh. Like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
meh.
Don't feel
Am
like
I
you.
ever gonna make $2,000 at a show? And I think that that's normal. you
Right.
know, depending on where you're from, depending on what type of city you're in, what like how big your town is, that you have to have realistic expectations for the surroundings that you're in for the show that you go to.
Yeah. And I'm not complaining about the sales. It's just
Oh no,
this
no,
is the
no.
situation that I'm in. And
Definitely not.
based on my
Yeah.
time commitments and the number of shows that I'm doing in a year, if I
Yeah.
need to pick out 18 shows a year, like, this is a long game of the whole year. The
Yeah.
year as a whole, I have so many shows, and doing a show that's 2 days, one weekend is going to be a chunk of time that I can't get back. That if I had that weekend to work on
Yeah.
more work or work on wholesale order or something else that was more comfortable than dealing with the heat and the travel and all that stuff. that become a factor besides just the number at the end of it that I sold. All of that is becoming more front of mind, so that I know that all of that has an impact on whether it was worth it or not.
Totally. And I didn't definitely.
No, I'm just saying that for the people out there
that. And I think about the first big show I did, which was my very first show, and I made like $1,200, and I was like, yeah, I'm fucking killing it. And I think that I spent I spent so fucking much money on the booth because I didn't know what I was doing. I think I spent like $600.
Your inventory after that show, was it drained because of that, or
no, not necessarily.
Okay.
It was so beginning. It was like so much at the beginning.
I'm just thinking some people that do the shows and their inventory gets drained completely and they basically have to reset once they get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't balance out those shows if you can't keep inventory. I feel like that's a balance. That's demand, pricing, and just because you did sell everything, if you're completely drained in inventory and you have to restart everything for a show that you have in 3 weeks or 2 weeks. If you can only physically handle 3 shows a year because your inventory.
Well, that's what I was doing at Leavenworth. I mean, I was selling enough that I'd have to go home and make a whole new batch of shit. The next week, and then
it's just a situation you got to figure out whether you're comfortable with or not, and what you can handle.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Ugh, fucking shows, man.
Yeah, I need to be more comfortable about leaving stuff at home.
Yeah, you do.
It definitely shows by the time you unload your car and you keep all these bins of work underneath the table.
Or
and it's
you need to get a bigger fucking car. Like, it's either or.
I'm working on that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Okay. We're at an hour 40, and I think we should probably wrap it up.
Yes. All right.
Start.
Did we want to mention anything about the Patreon stuff? We mentioned it last episode, but
I'm gonna do that
for
this week.
We've got it coming. It's gonna be a work in progress a little bit, but anybody that's willing to help us out, we appreciate it. And yes.
Yeah, I'll set it up this week. I promise. Pinky promise. Put it on my notes.
I heard something about pinky promise the other day, that the origin of that was like that if you broke it, you had to cut off your pinky. Does that sound right?
Oh my God.
That was like the origin of the whole pinky promise. I don't know how truthful it is, but that's what I heard.
I believe it.
That if you broke it, you had to cut your pinky off.
I believe it. Yeah.
All right, I will not be cutting your pinky off if you do not do it, but
I'm looking it up.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll get that out there. Look for it. I'm sure it'll be a big announcement, and we've got that best of coming soon. I feel bad about you having to edit that together, but it's going to be fucking hilarious by the time it's done. I know it's going to be. And it's going to be so long. It's going to be like 2 episodes, but I hope you all love it as much as we do. It's fun finding these little snippets of interactions, and I'm like, you almost wonder if, because it's the 2 of us talking, that I like feel like certain interactions are only something funnier that I caught.
Yeah.
Because of like that little moment.
Yeah.
And you typically, the ones that I cut out are things that you said. So it's like I'm kind of blinded to the things that I say that resonate with certain people. So some of them are, helpful, like not just funny stories, but it could just be helpful tips that like were talked about that I think are beneficial for people to hear again. That it's like, hey, how many people have listened to every minute of our episodes that caught everything and remember certain things? Like,
crazy.
They probably don't. So it's like, hey, a lot of these snippets will be funny and hopefully beneficial as well.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Are you ready? The history behind the pinky promise?
Let's hear it.
Was I right? With this. Yeah, you were. It says one possible origin of this traditional promise in Japan, where it is known as yubakiri, meaning finger cut off. Supposedly, people in Japan believe that if you break a pinky promise, you have to cut off your pinky finger in return. Yes, creepy, isn't it? Some even say that this promise was created by the Japanese mafia.
Wow.
Oh, here's some alternatives. Some alternatives to the good old pinky promise. In the ancient Hebrew culture, if a person wanted to make an oath or a promise to someone, they had to touch the thigh of the said person and then only promise it. Writing an oath in blood.
Touch the thigh, so like thigh to thigh, or
Thigh to thigh.
you
I
just
don't
had
know, I
to touch
guess.
their thigh.
Yeah, I guess.
Seems
I
weird.
think the original pinky promise is that you like hook the pinkies and then you kiss your hand. Like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Anyway,
right.
there we go. And we're
The
done.
more you know.
The more you know. All right.
All
Later.
right. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next
Yeah.
time.
Bye.
All right. Bye. I felt like the audio was good. I heard some background noise, but that could have been my fan.
Yeah, no, it was fine. I think it was fine.
Yeah.
Save. What am I saving this as? We're almost 100.
Is this 99?
I gotta start on that. Yeah, it's
I
99.
feel like it's going to take more time than you expect. I think this is going to be like a 2-week deal. That's going to have to be broken into like 3 sessions or 4 sessions.
Yeah. I think you're correct.
It's going to be a lot. So 99?
Yeah, I'm calling it show success.
Yeah. Okay. I hope it didn't come across as like negative and like shitting on stuff. I feel like I kind of want it to just be like a long-winded things to think about after a show.
No, I thought it was great. I just do feel like I know, like I was specifically, I'm gonna turn off the thingy.
All right. Bye, Patreon people.
Bye, Patreon people.